Hey folks, I'm Cloaked Games. Let me just start off by saying the song that's going on in the Game Chops I want to find later and put into my own playlist to listen to again. Okay, the mic might be a bit too loud, let me know. And the music might be too loud, I can't even tell anymore. I'll turn it down a bit for now. Too loud for me, so I'm going to turn it down on my end. Yeah, if anyone drops by, let me know if the balance is right. I need to write down the numbers and then not touch them anymore, but I keep tweaking it every time because it doesn't seem quite right. Zelda's Lullaby. Okay, so I have a few things I want to work out. This is like a brainstorming and game design stream. I don't usually do game design on stream because it's just difficult to do on stream. I usually spend like a lot of time just sitting and thinking, and that's not as entertaining. And I do lots of spoiler stuff, but we're so early in the process, I thought I'd give it a shot. Pretty much everything that happens here is, subject to change. I do still need to get a new webcam. So no webcam today, though this would have been a great stream for that. And despite dropping my frame rate to 20 frames per second, I am still dropping half my frames. So what? I have no idea. It's just a drawing and typing stream, so again, it doesn't matter, but I need to actually investigate because that's not right at all. Like if I change it to 10, would it work? I don't know. Weird. I'll have to ask my roommate about the internet too, because I wonder if there's an upload cap. I don't know. Okay, so I made a text document because I also need that. Let's put that. Wait. Take Arborshire, put that there, and make this. So like this. Oops. And I should have a, wait. Okay, I'm still learning how a sprite works, but I want to use it for all the art in Arborshire. So I'm doing it for the concept art as well, just to learn, and the diagrams. I want to use it over the Game Maker Sprite Editor. I'm learning new things. Oh boy, tree game. That's right, Avinsky. Welcome in. Okay, where do I begin? I have some notebooks that I was working through some ideas on. And I did the whole dungeon prototype. So I do recommend anyone interested try that prototype and let me know how it goes. I did get 2 playtesters and learned a lot, but if I get more, I'll just learn more, and that'd be lovely. Let's see. And oh man, the how far behind am I? Move the cursor. I changed the latency also so that it would be yeah, I changed the latency a little bit, so hopefully if the internet buffers it won't affect you guys. Hey Luna, how's it going? A-Sprite is really good. The layers are tricky. Screwed up, yeah. I haven't quite figured out the layers yet, but it's definitely easy to make pixels. Yeah, Luna, this is A-Sprite. It's for pixel art. I'm trying to use it instead of the Game Maker pixel art editor because the Game Maker's built-in one is stuffed AF. Okay, so what we're talking about today, this is a design stream. I'm just using A-Sprite as a sketch pad, basically, is the dungeon aspect. So Arborshire has 2 pillars. We've got the narrative pillar, which I will probably not talk about much on stream because I want to avoid spoilers. Even the alpha testers, I want to be able to get feedback on the story kind of fresh as it goes in. Then the other pillar is the dungeon, and so the idea is the can I even write this out fast? No, I will use the what is the text hotkey T? Yep. And dungeon. There we go. This is hotkey B. Yeah, I'm still learning how to do it. Darker green. So there's this idea that the gameplay loop basically takes you between the village and the dungeon. And in the village is the narrative stuff, and in the dungeon is the puzzle stuff. And you recover items from the dungeon that have narrative significance. So you go back and forth, and that's the gameplay loop. A little bit like Hades, if anyone's played that. Except instead of a roguelike with combat, it's a roguelike with puzzles. Navigation things. So this morning I did a bunch of writing for the narrative stuff and trying to sort out like character motivations and what kinds of items you might find in the dungeon and like why all those things got lost. It seems to be a chronic problem that these people are forgetting stuff. So kind of trying to come up with explanations for that. However, and I can scroll wheel to change the that's not what today is about, or this live stream. This live stream will be just about the dungeon. I have a rectangle tool. U. What? What is R then? For you to be all over there. Nothing. Oh. Blur. Okay. I'll have to play around with that. And I can do U. Shift. Fill the rectangle tool. Shift U for 2. So do I do... How does that work? Uh-oh. U. U. Okay, so U just toggles between filled and not filled. Shift U gives me ellipses, filled and not filled. Okay. So I want a unfilled rectangle. I do want my cursor to be larger, so I scroll wheel. And that gives me a larger cursor. Okay, I'm learning all the hotkeys. I have to do it with hotkeys or it will be too slow. Polygons, hell yeah. And yeah, we got these contour tools too, which I'll try out in a minute. If I need them for something, I guess. Okay, and is the... Okay, so the brush size is per tool. If I do a filled rectangle, does it... It does. Or an ellipse. Okay, it's per tool entirely. So the filled rectangle... Well, the filled rectangle, I guess, shouldn't be a larger brush size anyways, because it's going to get filled. Interesting. Okay, so now I can draw squares. If I hold shift, does it aspect ratio lock? Yep, there we go. And I will pick a dark color instead, dark green. It's a tree game, so I'll use green. Okay, I'm not used to control scroll wheel being scroll in and out without control, I mean. Okay. So, let me talk about one idea I have written down, and hopefully my explaining it will bring me to other things to design and work on. What the heck is this song? Cool, I guess. A lot of weird ones today. Okay. How do I phrase this? Okay, go back, scroll out. This is the core idea here, is that as you know more about the game, then you can explore the dungeon better. What song is it? That was just the intro to this, which I think is a Final Fantasy song. Or Chrono Trigger, maybe? Masamune, I think is what it says, but I don't know if that's the artist. Okay, so the idea for Arborshire is that as you learn more about how the game works, you, just by your knowledge, can explore further and deeper into each dungeon. And the dungeons will be randomly generated. So every time you go, just like a roguelike that has lots of game knowledge requirements, like how to beat things or how to interact with certain things or solve puzzles, every further attempt you get deeper. Except this is just puzzles, so it has to be things that I can teach the player that they can then apply and use to navigate better. You mean, like, if you know a certain trick, like boomerangs carry bombs, you can get to new areas. Yes, exactly. At least that is one approach that I will use for this. But it won't just be secret mechanics like item interactions. Particularly because I thought it might have been able to be that. That's what I do, spoiler alert, that's what I do in the prototype that I posted the other day. Just item interactions, just like in the last librarian. However, those are pretty easy to determine by experimentation, and kind of obvious if you look at the puzzle that you meant to solve, right? So if you see explodable boulders on the opposite side of a pit, you might consider, can I get my bomb across that gap somehow? Which is super cool. I want that to still be part of the game, but I need to find more clever ways of embedding secrets into the game that are not impossible, but much more challenging to find by random experimentation, especially once the player kind of knows what's going on and they're expecting those secrets. So for this game, that might be too small. I'll have to... I'm calling this in this game knowledge keys. So like in a Zelda game where you have a key and it opens the door. Got these keys and they go to locked doors, which I draw like this usually. Just like Legend of Zelda. This is a knowledge key, which is to say a locked door you can open if you know how, but you don't start knowing how. And I can treat these in the level design as the same as just a key item. Like getting the bombs for the first time then lets you unlock every item spot that requires a bomb. Knowledge keys work the same way, except the player technically has them the whole time. They just don't know it. There's a game that does this very well that I don't super want to mention because going in knowing about it, yeah, it gets a little bit of a spoiler, but that's a key inspiration. What is select? Marquee is M for marquee. I don't like a sprite's hotkeys. I need to rebind them. Oh my god! Oh yeah. My bad. Nice. I need to make a new layer, which is Shift N. That's not it. That was Shift Enter opens the preview. Okay. Shift N. Okay, I made a new layer. I'm on that layer. I will lock this background layer. Okay, great. Rectangle, and we'll pick the dark green. Very good. Oh, whoa. Interesting. There's cool guidelines, huh? Am I on the background layer? Is that why? Wait. Okay, cool. Each layer can have frames as well. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's neat. Shouldn't need frames for this, but that makes sense. New frame down there. Let me experiment with that, actually. Let's pull this up. Do they always have to have the same amount of frames? Or can I... delete frame? What does this mean? That it's filled or not filled? Oh, opacity? Interesting. Oh, because this one's filled with white. I see. Okay, I don't need layers right now anyways. Frames. I'll fiddle with that later. So let me give an example of one idea I have for using key items to navigate through the dungeon. Layer 1 has nothing on it, so it's empty. Okay. Actually I have two examples of how a key item, a knowledge key can help you get deeper into the dungeon on a second attempt. So the first idea is, let's see, shift. I'm gonna make myself a grid real quick. There we go. Super Mario Galaxy. Yes, it's gorgeous. I'm gonna grab my water bottle. Okay, now I'm getting the dots illusion. Oh no, it's terrible. Okay, here's my grid. Actually, I'll do another layer so I can shift N. Very good. And then I can have a different frame for each dungeon too. And what is fill bucket? It's G, right? Paint bucket is G. Ah! Oh, that won't work. Of course it won't. I'm on the same layer. Okay, I'll just do this. This is fine. Okay. So here's our first dungeon. Very simple. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for examples. And the green will mean that there's a door there. This is Kakariko Village from Twilight Princess? Yes, it is. Anyways, here is our first dungeon. And we have a finish point here. And this doorway is one directional. I need an even smaller cursor. So this arrow means you can only go from this room to that room, but not back. And then we'll use red for this. This is locked with a knowledge key. And that knowledge key is in here. Let me just put it over one more room. Cancel. Oh, shift use ellipse. Nope. Ah, yes. I want to make the cursor bigger. So there we go. And this is line. Okay, there's our key. Okay. So this is actually what I did in the dungeon prototype. And the idea is like you start here in this example dungeon, then you go through this one-way path. So you've seen this locked door, you get this key. Now you could go back, but I've blocked it off. And instead you finish the dungeon here. Then the next time you go through and you see this door, you can take that path. So the first type of thing that the key can do is let you take a different path than you did before. Here we see a branch, like, let me draw it differently than this. It should be, no, go back down to 4. That's it. You get the knowledge key somewhere after clearing the first ending. Then you can come back and do the second ending because you now have that key. This is what I did in the prototype. There's a bit of complexity to that, exactly how I implemented it, which you should try the prototype and let me know. The second thing it could be is as a shortcut. So here's the finish point. And then this path takes the key. Okay, I'm gonna just... And what this lets you do is get to the same point faster. This is actually something we see in the repeated dungeon in Phantom Hourglass. That one everyone hates, the Temple of the Ocean King, where you have to come back over and over again and use your items for shortcuts on previous floors. Now hopefully I will make a dungeon more beloved than Temple of the Ocean King. But I'm genuinely borrowing ideas from it, because it does try something that they didn't do in any other Zelda dungeon. At least in a different way. Let me just draw this as... Let's see, is that a race? I believe in you, thank you. I do consider myself capable of this task. We shall see. I may be a little bit too overconfident, but I have spent a long time preparing for this moment. So yeah, here's the two ways that I've thought of so far where the key can affect how the player navigates. And actually both of these lead to something that I think will be an important concept. I don't remember my playthrough enough to know if I was annoyed by that specific dungeon, but I enjoyed the game well enough. Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit underappreciated. Lots of people didn't really like it, but I think that's just because it's not as good as other Zelda games, not because it's a bad game. Knowledge is power, yes. So what both of these indicate to me is that, what Zelda? Phantom Hourglass, one of the DS ones. I like most Zelda games I play, me too. Is that I need... Let me explain this differently. One question, I beat that one, I liked it, yeah, it's good. That I have for a puzzle roguelike like this, with a Zelda dungeon, Zelda style dungeon, is what actually quantifies ending a run. And Luna, let me get you a comment in a moment. So what quantifies ending a run in a Zelda dungeon? In a puzzle roguelike. Like normally in roguelikes, you get killed by something. And I talked about this in the second devlog. I don't want to have enemies. Ben did drown. Rest in peace, Ben. Defeating a boss, right, Luna? That's correct. That is the ending goal. So the first answer that is definitely true to the end of a dungeon is when you reach the end. Even if there's not monsters, then it's the end. So that's what this F means, finish point. We reached the end of the dungeon. Okay, we did it. This is ending 1, this is ending 2. Same thing. There is a final objective. But in these dungeons, I want there to be more than one ending. So what quantifies finishing a dungeon in the sense of you failed, right? Boss but no enemies? I could do that. But what happens, how do you fail to reach an ending and stick, and for instance, how do you just get to the first ending but not to the second ending because you don't have the right knowledge keys yet? That kind of thing. One option would be a timer, like Majora's Mask, which Luna mentioned. I don't want to do that either, because if the point of not having combat is to remove that anxiety from the exploration base, then having a timer just completely negates that. So yes, it is exploration based. You will find a treasure or a key item of some kind, and that will be the end of the dungeon. But for roguelike, you shouldn't win the roguelike every single attempt. I guess you could, but what I want is for you to do better each time, is to get further each time. So I am considering another way of putting a restriction on the player, and there's two options I've thought about, and I might do both. One thing is to limit the number of keys you have. So if there's regular keys, let me fill these. Nope, here. So we have locked doors here, right? And in this dungeon, if you have one key, you can make it here. This is the start. And if you have two keys, you can make it here. So this is the first restriction, is having a limit to the number of keys that you can use. So if you only have two, or the limit of your knowledge keys, you can't get further because you don't have the right knowledge to bypass. So just like Ivinsky points out, the first ending is dynamically available to get, so you can always get the first ending in the dungeon. And that is the plan. That the first ending is always available no matter what. The others will depend on having certain game knowledge. And even if you bail without reaching like ending 2, you will still try to learn something from your attempts. So now there's a second thing I could restrict. I remember making dungeons in Link's Awakening. Yeah, it does look kind of similar. Which is this. Suppose I have this. And in this model, I restrict two things. I restrict the number of keys, not even talking about knowledge keys, and I can restrict the number of rooms that the player can visit. So under this model, you can get to ending 1 with 1 key and 2 rooms, 1, 2. Or you can get to ending 1 with 0 keys and 4 rooms, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now suppose another version of this. Where this one is a regular locked door. And this one, I need to change. I'm gonna stop using red for knowledge keys. I'm gonna use gold for knowledge keys, I think. Let me redo those. No, I shouldn't use gold either. Maybe blue. Like int. Intelligence is blue. darker blue. Okay. We'll use blue. Yeah, blue? Okay, I'm glad you agree. Okay, so here's this model. In this dungeon, you can reach ending 1 in 3 ways. Wait, that's not true. In this dungeon, you can reach... Let's suppose you have... Oh my god. Not that. Man, still need to finish Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom, all those, yeah. I got bored of Tears of the Kingdom. I know this song, I have it on my Spotify, but I can't remember the name. This one's from Stardew Valley, I think. But I don't know the name of it. We've got a key. That's the wrong green. This one is right. Right, yes. In this dungeon, we have a key, and we have... And we have 4 rooms. I'll do it like this. So that means we have a regular key in 4 rooms. We can solve the first ending by going 1, 2, 3, 4, and using this key, right? So we can reach ending 1 with these supplies, these materials. However, if we have this blue knowledge key, we can actually skip all 3 of these things and just go straight up and clear it with 1, 2, 3 and the key, which means we can reach ending 2 only if we have the knowledge key, because we're restricted on the number of regular keys and the number of rooms that we can explore. Another possibility I'm considering is the ability to exchange keys for rooms. So you can like melt a key and it turns into 4 rooms or something like that, which also gives you more flexibility about where you go and some decision making, but it will mean that you run out of keys unless you have some knowledge keys to bypass that, or you can find a more efficient path between the 2 locations. And I think this kind of model, so this lets us get to ending 1. Oh, that's scuffed. But if we have the blue key, we can get to ending 2. This model, what was I going to say about it? Basically, by restricting the number of rooms that the player can explore on any given run, reaching an ending means being more efficient with your resources. And I can have the player unlock like more rooms to make it just so that you can naturally explore more on further attempts. So even if you finish an ending, or if you finish a dungeon but you don't actually reach a new ending, at least I can reward the player with things like extra rooms or extra keys, maybe that are used one time, right? Like you can get a key that you can use once in a new dungeon, which might let you reach ending 2 without having the right knowledge key. But then in the future, but because you reach that ending, you can figure out what that knowledge key is and use it in the future to get back to that place, for instance. And I think that this model works better if I give the player more information about what the layout of that dungeon looks like. The key symbol looks similar to the OTL person. I actually don't know what you mean by that. So let me make a dungeon model that works with exchanging keys for rooms. Look at OTL. The letters make a guy? I can't quite figure it out. You've got me staring at the comment. O is the head, T is the torso and arm, L is the legs. Confused by math gif here. Jeez. Okay, but it's got one arm and one leg? It's a stickman sitting. Oh gosh. Okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. Wait. All right, I understand. There we go. I got it. He's just a guy on his knees? Okay, that works too, but, you know, this one's sitting up. We're a little respectful to him. He's been brought down by the world. Oh no, all those troubles. I suppose I must do this tragic story justice. He's crying. You're trying a Tenny? Oh no. Well, hopefully Tenny isn't as sad as this guy. There, just for future reference. Okay, let's make a dungeon that uses all the keys. Here's an example. Let's go over here. I'm sitting in the screenshot I took. Okay. So there's ending 1. Here's ending 2. Let's do that again with the right size. And this one, we need a green lock. And a green lock. And a blue lock here. And then here's our start point. Oops. All right. So this dungeon takes advantage of that idea of spending a key to get extra rooms. So let's suppose 1, 2, 3, 4. you have 2 keys. And you can explore 4 rooms. And a key also can become 4 rooms. So actually, in that case, you just have 3 keys. But a key can also become 4 rooms. So here, with only 3 keys, 1 room, 2 room, use a key. So we use a key to make rooms. So then we have 2 keys and 4 rooms. We use 4 rooms here and a key here. And then in order to go to the next room, we have to break our last key into rooms. So we spend all 3 keys getting to ending 1 if we go this slow way around. Here's route 1. Like that. Or, if we have the knowledge key, we break 1 key into 4 rooms, 2nd key into 4 more rooms, and then we have enough to get... Oh no, we only need the 4. Like this. Knowledge key, 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 and we even have a key left over at ending 2. And another reason I like this idea is because then I can just mark on the map like where the endings are, and the player can look at the rooms and figure out whether they'll get there far enough. It does allude to them, though, that there's probably a secret shortcut either here or here, because that's the only explanation for how you could possibly get to ending 2 on time. Or you get more keys or more rooms and you can get there anyways. And you have 4 keys, you can make it regularly. But I can also have like knowledge keys that produce like portals, like teleport 2 rooms up, right? So in terms of types of knowledge keys, just like Kavinsky mentioned a little while back, item interactions like carrying the bomb with a boomerang could be kind of secret knowledge that lets you do this blue key. But it's also like a little bit obvious that you're supposed to do that, but maybe it requires a key item, so you can't be totally sure. It could be like passwords. Now I want to avoid passwords because they're capricious. But there are ways to make passwords kind of more fun. Also in that game with knowledge keys that I kind of alluded to. There's something similar. The trick with passwords is it needs to not be... I think One Shot did passwords well. One Shot was so fun. I might have to try it. Hello, Tenny. The trick with passwords is just not making it feel like the player... It needs to be something the player can kind of figure out on their own, and also not... it's hard to articulate. Play it. This is the command. Okay. I will take that advice. Mayhap I'll do it as a stream game. I mean, the word is capricious, right? Like, finding a password isn't necessarily satisfying because it's so arbitrary. Right? Like, oh, of course I don't know the password. The game designer didn't tell it to me, right? Or if it's like a simple password, it can be brute forced. Can you stream one shot? It's a bit unique. I have no idea. But I'll definitely put it on my list to investigate and perhaps play on my own. So if I do passwords, I think it has to be like... something a bit more integrated into the game world. Where it's not just a, haha, you can't go here because you don't know how. It needs to be a... It needs to be the... Right, okay, so from a design perspective, or at least from, I guess from the player's perspective, it needs to not be a denial, but an invitation. If there's a password, it should be, you could go here if only you knew how, right? Which is just feels different. And you can accomplish that by kind of dressing up the password as maybe something you could figure out if you paid attention. One option I'm considering is actually having a conlang that you can decipher that gives hints, right? Like if you learned how the language works, then you can actually read it. Or like just a cipher, right? Whereas you slowly learn what different symbols mean or whatever, you start to garner more information about the dungeon as you explore. For instance, one of them might say, hey, you can blow up this wall right here. Which also makes me think of an idea. Okay, so with this key and room thing, what I'm operating on right now is that the limitation for exploration is your exploration resources. Kind of like some RPGs where like D&D even, right? Where you have spell slots and you can cast, some number of spells in a particular day before you have a long rest. That's what I'm thinking here, where each venture into the dungeon, you've got limited resources to play with. There's no time limit. It just ends when you run out of resources or when you decide that's as far as I can go and you decide to bail, right? And that way the player can spend as long as they want thinking about the right decisions to make. There's not as much consequences for making the wrong decision because you just try again and reset all your resources. So I don't think there'll be many things that are like one-time uses necessarily. Keys, rooms, these two are shown here. Then some other possible resources could be explosives. So like Legend of Zelda's bombs, where except like you have 3 bombs. And so you can't just try to blow up every wall willy-nilly, hoping that there's a secret pathway there, because you'll run out of explosives. They'll be wasted. And I'm glad you're here, Tenny, because this thought I'm thinking about is specifically in response to what you and my other playtester both did in the dungeon prototype. Will it be something like Darkest Dungeon where you can have different resources? You can adjust how many before you venture in? Yes, I've been thinking about that too, and that's an excellent idea. Let me give myself a little more room on this text document. So we can do some resource management things as well. And all of this fits into the idea of a kind of exploration-based thing, right? Where you're planning ahead, and you're solving problems using and making tactical decisions with what you have, as opposed to like fighting enemies. That's just not what I want to do. Welcome in, Shuckle Boxes. What are you, a cat? No, but I think like many, I wish I could be a cat. Simpler than being a level designer. This is dungeon design. Ooh, sparkles. So adjusting the number of resources before entering, and one more thing would be temporary use resources. So like, it's the question mark too. Like I mentioned, like maybe some dungeons, if you clear a dungeon but you don't reach an ending, it would give you temporary use resources like 1 bonus key, which makes the next run easier. But that key actually gets used up if you choose to use it. And those two, if you can adjust your resources, maybe you can allocate. You can be like, I don't want to use that bonus key right now. I'll put it in my box and use it next run, right? Or you could collect them and then do one run where you have a whole bunch of extra keys. And this is kind of also like a difficulty tempering thing, right? Where, especially if this is a reward for a failed exploration attempt, it means that if you choose to use them, you always have like, you're eventually going to make progress, even if you can't quite figure out those knowledge keys. And on future attempts, you'll use less and less resources, and you can, if you can allocate the number, you can spec them into more useful things, right? Like if you have all the knowledge keys, you know every single little tiny detail, then all you need with you is, you know, the right key items that you know how to use and a whole bunch of extra rooms, right? You don't need any keys at all. You can bypass every locked door using your intimate game knowledge. And that also means that like based on what resources you allocate going into the dungeon, it actually restricts which endings you can reach. Like, right, ending 1 is always going to be available. It's always going to reward you with something to use, even if it's not a permanent upgrade. But you might find out that like you get pretty far in and you see where ending 2 is supposed to be, and you just can't quite reach it this attempt. And you got to come back with that new, that's another thing that you learn, is like the balance in which things are most important. Now that's risky with procedural generation because you can't necessarily like guarantee then any strategy is going to work for any given dungeon, because it could be different every time you enter. So that'll be a proc gen thing, like in playtesting, to see how do I make the dungeons always have multiple solutions, so that as long as you know enough knowledge keys, you can most likely clear every ending in a dungeon, depending on what your objective is. And another thing I'm thinking about is like permanent bear notices that might be like charms or items you can equip before going in, like passive effects. So like anything that improves the minimap. Like things like kind of radars. So if you're in this room, then you can also see what the rooms adjacent to you contain. So you could have radar 1 or radar 2 or radar 3 or whatever, and see different distances and like intuit where things are in the dungeon. So then if you're like in this room over here, you can actually see that ending 2 is here and be like, oh, can I get to the left somehow? I could go get ending 2. It could even be like if there's multiple endings, that the end game goal is not just to reach one of the many endings, but to reach all of them in one attempt. That could be interesting. So there's like certain MacGuffin collectibles, right? Like maybe there's 3 gems or something, right? And you get the first gem, the second gem, or the third gem as separate endings in the dungeon, and they give you correspondingly complex rewards. But eventually you can get 2 or all 3 gems in one run, and that also is a different ending. Pokemark theme? I believe you. I don't know Pokemon music. So then there's also rewards. Save Peach, Toad, and Luigi in the same level. Yes. This is Pokemon Center Lo-Fi. Very nice, very nice. You learn new knowledge keys, gain more resources temporary or otherwise permanent. And by learn more knowledge keys, I mean that like the player, at least for this complex knowledge keys, the players are not going to have to just like randomly intuit them or brute force their way through every password or shortcut. There will be like tutorial rooms that are rewards for reaching certain endings, where they teach you the new mechanic so that you can come back in future runs and use them. Pokemon used to share the same music as centers, then they got their own themes. Okay. So then the Pokemarts were put into centers, so it's in a way a Pokemart. I see. Okay. I'm getting the Pokemon, the history of Pokemon here. More story items, more. I don't need to write more. That's redundant. Key items. And in fact, I'm going to make these probably, in many cases, the same thing. They became busless bus stops? Oh no! What good is a bus stop without a bus? So yeah, I'm thinking that like key items are things that you'll unlock by reaching some of those complex goals that you could bring in. Maybe you can't bring in all your key items every run, but you can pick, you know, some number of key items. So if you can allocate your resources, then another thing you can do is as you make progress, you get more you get to allocate more resources to every run, like a bigger pouch, right? And even that could be something you opt into, right? You just bring back currency or something. And you can decide which things you want to prioritize. Ah, you get a bike. Okay, so then you just need a bike stop. Everyone makes a cardboard shell of a bus and does the Flintstone things. Nice. I can't wait for the dungeon to use a turtle as a safety helmet. You're right. Wait, hold on. Oh my gosh. Google, you're obnoxious. Phineas and Ferb with their turtle hats? I know this is an old gag, but this is the one I know, because I watch so much Phineas and Ferb. Minecraft turtle helmet. Oh yeah, there's that one too, like it gives you water breathing or something. Okay, so I'm looking at all this and I think it will work. Okay, that seems silly to say. Because, like, obviously I spent a long time thinking about this. And I even did a prototype. I just think, what I mean is I don't think I have any more questions left at the moment. I need to make another prototype so that I can find more questions to ask. And while I'm talking about that, let me mention to the chat, folks, definitely try out that prototype sooner than later if you're interested in it, so I can get your feedback before I make prototype 2. Because there's definitely some things I'm missing, and I'd love to see, especially if I can watch players play it through, I have gotten 2 playtesters. Is there water levels? There is a correct answer. Shuckle, I know you don't want there to be water levels. I know you think the correct answer is no. But you are speaking to the premier fan of water levels. But my promise to you is that if there is a water level, I will make it fun. 10A can vouch for it. I can make fun dungeons. Says the prototype is fun. Good, I'm glad. Like I said, it reminded me a bit of the old game Adventure. Very cool, yeah. I actually haven't played that one, but I'm sure that was an inspiration for Zelda. So, kind of connects. Water levels, never mind. Give me a week. Oh, man. Well, the prototype doesn't have a water level. Whoa, the correctest answer. Good water levels. As long as there aren't jump scares underwater. Yeah, Luna, there won't be any jump scares. Just at all. They're underwater or otherwise. This is an exploration and puzzle solving game. I am not qualified to make a horror game. But yeah, I actually really love water levels. I even love the water temple from Ocarina of Time because of how ambitious it is, not because it's not annoying. Like, I understand why players get stuck on it, and that gives me ideas for how I could make a different water level that doesn't suck as badly. Actually, I could explain the water temple in Ocarina of Time real quick, and it's not even that hard. Here's the problem with the water temple in Ocarina of Time. Let me just demonstrate. Oops, wrong blue. Okay. Boom, a horror game with some jump scares, you're right. Mario ruined other levels for me forever. Oh, the eel in Mario 64. Yeah, that's spooky. Okay, this is a brief outline of the water temple from Ocarina of Time. And here is the problem. You start here, and there are 3 locked doors in a row. The eel is the worst. The water levels in Galaxy? Oh, what about those? There's 3 locked doors, and you need these 3 keys. Here's the problem. The player doesn't know you need 3 keys. So you could go here and get this first key. And then come back and unlock this door. And then realize, oh, you need another key. So you gotta go all the way back here and get this key. And then you come around here and get this key. And then you come back here and get this key. And you have to go back around and get this key. So the gist of it is there's a key corridor, which is this section. And I learned this from a YouTube comment, that phrase, key corridor. And this is the crux of the water temple problem. The key corridor means that the player doesn't know how many keys they need, and you might get all the way into the key corridor and be missing 1 key, and then you have to backtrack through the entire dungeon. And there's like some other details as to how the dungeon is designed that makes that more likely to happen, but they're actually not that hard to fix. If only this key corridor wasn't here in the first place. And it's actually worse, because the water temple in Ocarina of Time, you change the water levels, and you have to go from floor 1, floor 2, floor 2, floor 1, floor 2, floor 3. So all of these pathways here are not actually regular doors. They are all one-directional pathways. And then there's this nice big shortcut back. They have the shortcut back. That's great. However, that means if you go through this room and miss the key, and then you go here, you are completely stuck. You have to reset the entire dungeon by changing the water cycle 3 times. So just add shortcuts in the corridor. Eventually, that is one solution, except for the changing state makes that much more difficult to implement. But yes, that works. And Honeysuckle, your favorite level's water level is Skyward Sword. Can't tell if you're weird or not. You're not weird. I also quite like that one, and it might be one of the best. That's my opinion. Yeah, you had to go underwater. Luna had to go underwater. Something. Camera was facing towards me at that point. I have no fear. So I swim towards the thing, and then bam, eel. Yeah. That thing scared the crap out of me when I first played that game. And I was like 15. It is the worst. Don't worry, I won't do that to you, Luna. I'm not mean like Nintendo. Oh, I was younger, yeah. I mean, I think most people were younger. I played it, we got it on the like virtual console like way after the fact. Nintendo really likes to traumatize their kids. I was scared by Majora's Mask, mostly. Honestly, Ocarina of Time was kind of scary when I was a kid. So yeah, this is the key corridor problem, and like Ivinsky mentioned, you can add shortcuts. That helps. But actually the best way is both the shortcuts and just combine all these locks into one mega lock that requires all the keys right up front. That way, you're not doing false advertising to the player. They know that they need 3 keys, and they're going to look for all 3 before they even go into this key corridor at all. No backtracking, just find all the keys and then progress onto the rest of the dungeon. And in fact, this is a technique they do all of the times. No, shortcuts from the key to the next room, so you'll always progress to the finish. Either way, like there's a lot of ways you can work the shortcuts in to reduce the backtracking. But the thing I'm trying to particularly address is just making sure that the player might miss a key, but that they will not slip past a key, not miss a key and not realize that they missed one, right? You should arrive back through this whole loop at the start of the key corridor and know you don't have enough keys. And I know this works because a bunch of other dungeons in Ocarina of Time employs this technique, such as the ghosts in the Forest Temple, where you need all 4 ghosts to get to the final dungeon room. And you'll notice in that context, there's also this thing that they do where the ghosts are kind of like in the 4 corners of the dungeon as well. So you can tell that like there's 4 different branches you take to get each ghost instead of putting them all in one path, which also reduces the amount of backtracking you have to do because you tend to take each route. You reach the end and you expect to find a key. As opposed to the Water Temple where you have to follow this big old winding path and collect all the keys along the way. That is also just a more fair way to design it, is to put them in separate routes. So if you want to make a complex dungeon, you might do this kind of thing and just be a little bit more careful about it. I even think the Water Temple itself would have been maybe fine as the final dungeon, considering how it is simpler than the rest, or more complex than the rest. Let me add a note so I don't forget that this is the Water Temple. For my game's purpose, this kind of thing is really important because while I'm procedurally generating the dungeons, I want to make sure to avoid key corridors. You heard it here, Cloak says put the simplest dungeon at the end. Yeah, you know I misspoke, but yeah, there's some... Well... Actually, in a way, they did do that in Ocarina of Time. Not the simplest, but Ganon's Castle, if you count it as a dungeon, which I do, is navigationally trivial. And by that I mean like the puzzles and the monsters are hard in that dungeon in Ganon's Castle, but actually going every route is easy because it's just a ring. You go through all 5 doors and reach the end trial, right? Hardest dungeon is the tutorial. Welcome to Dark Souls. Yeah. Cuphead took that to heart. Gotta love super scuffed difficult tutorials. I don't really believe in that concept. Like, there's some idea to like you're trying to like, I don't know, there's like this weed out idea where like you're trying to weed out the players that aren't cut out for it. That just that feels wrong to me. Like, you should really, like, a tutorial should be as fun as the rest of the game, and it should prepare you for the rest of the game, but not like make you think you're not gonna like the rest. Like not make it feel like you're not cut out for it, right? Like, if that's how hard your game is, spend a little bit more time introducing people to it, and just add some knowledge keys for advanced players to bypass it. There you go. I'm much more inclined to not to handhold necessarily, but I don't think being gentle with the player is a bad thing for some reason. Like, that doesn't click with me. That's not how I think about games. Having said that, The Last Librarian is not an easy game, and so this is a lesson I have learned over the last 10 years of my life, and not something I just was born with. I'm not saying Cuphead is a rush tutorial, it's just person to strike a left slide. Yeah, or press, press to strike a left. I remember that. Yeah, I knew that what you were referencing. But there is still a tendency, I mean, even in Cuphead, to make the game punishing for the sake of it and call it artistic intent. And like, I don't disagree that there's some artistry to the punishing game. But I also simultaneously believe that an easy mode does not ruin that artistry. Like, I really don't think so. I think you can make a game that's hard for players with lots of experience, and not impossible for players without lots of experience. That's totally doable. At least, let me caveat that. And I will say that I believe that is true for games that are combat focused. I am less sure how to do it for games that are exploration focused, like Tunic. Well, Tunic's combat also needs an easy mode, but Tunic's exploration, as I'm learning from another friend, insert Celeste, yeah. Celeste is a good example. Tunic's exploration, as I'm learning from another friend, is also just difficult because of how much more complex it is than most games. And I'm not 100% sure how to make that more approachable for players. For instance, like, there's players that just haven't learned how to build a mental map. And I learned that recently from watching someone that was playing Majora's Mask for the first time. Where I was watching them go in circles, basically, in a Majora's Mask dungeon, and not realize that there were other routes they could take because they weren't remembering that they had been there before. And that's just like, that's not their fault. That's a skill that you have to practice. And I grew up practicing because I played every Zelda game multiple times and lots of other exploration games. And so to me, with that mental map thing, like, I can play Tunic and I explore every route thoroughly and find all the secrets, and it's like extremely fun to finally like really utilize those skills. But I'm not sure how to make exploration more accessible, necessarily. Some options would be like, in terms of, if you're going to do accessibility options, like better minimap, like Hollow Knight having the charm that gives you a minimap marker, which is definitely helpful on the first playthrough, not quite as relevant on future playthroughs. Like, I think that can help keeping track of more information for the player. One thing I like in Outer Wilds exploration is the ship journal, the log that keeps track of like which story things you found. That is something I might have to do for Arborshire. It's possible. Other ways to make exploration more approachable is well, I mean, in Arborshire, since the dungeon's going to be procedurally generated, I can have difficulty settings that affect the size of the dungeon. Sure, why not, right? Like, I can probably figure out how to generate simpler or more complex dungeons. At any rate, I think that's all the brainstorming I'm going to do for today. Thanks for hanging out, folks, and listening to me ramble about dungeon design. I think this concept here and these notes are probably going to work, and I will probably make a second dungeon prototype with another handcrafted dungeon using this style with knowledge keys. Using this style where I have the limited keys and limited room exploration, as opposed to this style, which is what the first prototype was like. It was fun. Thank you for streaming. Yes, thank you for watching, everybody. Of course, no problem, Luna. What do I say? I'm just so glad you all came. I'm always happy to stream when I'm feeling up to it. So yeah. I'll see you all in the future. It was fun to do a design stream. I'll try to do more. We'll see. And hopefully next week I'll also make a devlog about what I learned from the first prototype. So yeah, bye everybody. Have a good day. You too, Luna. Thanks, Shekel. Bye.